Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
Well, happy Monday. It is a great day today. We've got the news cycle never ends for us over here at Untamed. I had an incredible weekend. I hope you guys did as well. We have two incredible guests that are going to join us today to talk about what is going on right now. And I'm not going to waste a lot of time. We've been trying to make sure we could get some things worked out on making sure we can hear. So let me just tell you about our guests real quick, and then I'm gonna talk to you about an op. I'm gonna go back to 2020 for it, and then we'll bring the guests in. We have two guests today. We have Colonel Roxane Towner Watkins, a retired Air Force colonel with 30 years of service. Entering an aircraft maintenance technician in 1979, she's rose through the ranks in command positions, including the commander of the Readiness Management Group and Deputy A9 at the Air Force Reserve Command. She holds multiple advanced degrees, including an MBA from Troy University, a Master's of Science from Air University, and a BS in Construction Management. She has it all figured out. But she's done some great things. She's also done and been speaking about things going on over the last 5 years pretty vocally. But she also she retired and became a real estate investor. And then from there, she's kind of worked on diving into podcasts that dives into World War II intelligence history and just as a wealth of knowledge. Our other guest is going to be Brigadier General retired Blaine Holt. He's a highly decorated U.S. Air Force veteran. He's a former NATO senior leader and current president of Factor X Research Group. You've seen him on multiple shows. I think you've seen both of them on multiple shows. But as the Air Force commander, where is this? Let me put my glasses on. Courage Republic, he masterfully led one of the DoD's most complex logistics operations during the Afghan surge amid violent revolution and political upheaval, earning the Bronze Star and a prestigious Council on Foreign Relations Fellowship. He rose to become the second highest ranking U.S. military official at NATO, recognized by the Supreme Allied Commander Europe as the #1 strategist and innovator for his leadership in foreign critical defense solutions during intense geopolitical challenges. He doesn't know it, but I met him years ago when I was in D.C. Working on things in the Middle East and Africa. I happened to meet him, I think, after a National Prayer Breakfast event in Washington, so I am familiar with him. But he also has entered the private sector and has done some pretty cool things, and again, a commentator on and speaker at Newsmax. Now, before I bring them on, and there's a lot of things to discuss, I want to put this post up. This post is really important, and I'm not going to waste a lot of other time after that going through the why, but I am going to ask our guests a little bit about this. There's a post that is going around, and it says, let me just kind of read you the post, or if you can put the post up first. So this is a post that goes through what's happening now with Americans that are blocking traffic. This is in response to Renee Good being shot. And here's the op. First of all, you need to know a few things. And we'll read through this, but the way that this is written is it's written in such a way that it gets everybody on board. Now, if you go back to 2020 and we're talking about the George Floyd incident, it turned from George Floyd incident to everyone wants to be on board for supporting black people and police abuse. And they used that as the poster child, but there was enough controversy around what really happened that it started to divide the country. So it was the perfect op. I mean, if you were running a psychological campaign, you would use a guy like George Floyd, a guy that was flawed 4 times the lethal limit of fentanyl in your system. You would show one perspective of Derek Chauvin leaning on the neck of George Floyd. You wouldn't give any context to it. You would use that as a way to reach into and grab the guilt of good people in this country. And what we've done with churches and things like that is we've done just that. Now, fast forward, we have the perfect storm. We have people that are Americans that are standing up for people in their community, when in actuality, that's not what it is. It's a lie. They created another narrative that said that Renee Good did not try to run over that officer, but he did. She did. And although it is unfortunate, although I don't like the outcome of it, the reality is still the same. She was given a lawful order, asked to step out of the car. She did not. She sped off. Her wheels spun. And had they not spun on the concrete or on the asphalt, she would have run over that officer. So I want to put all that aside for a second. I want to tell you where this originated from, because no one is talking about that. So this post, and I'll go back and read it after our guests are done. I've seen this post, but it's from Antifa and the PSL group who made it. Now it's hit the mainstream. So this is a post that was put up by the PSL, right, which is the Socialist and Liberation Group. Allow me to I want to be the arbiter of reality. This is what I said when I went through it. So you can just put my post up on top. It's an op. And you have to have beer goggles to think differently. I said, good people see things from the lens of what they would do to be a good person. Most people cannot fathom evil. You cannot fight evil with words. Not today, not ever. This represents the infiltration of the church and the idea that turn the other cheek is by some way the standard by which we should operate in life. This makes victims of our community and the reason that we have Satan clubs in our schools. The entire post makes good people feel guilty for having to create order. This is the same thing that caused parents to become convinced that a hard hand in disciplining your child would be counterproductive to the well-being of the child. It has allowed weakness to rule our society and for criminals to be released onto the street. It has made gangs thrive and entitlement like the ones we see with the Somali gangs in Minnesota and all other 50 states to defraud the American people. This is the same thing they used when George Floyd when they convinced many Americans that black people were somehow not able to succeed and that police are brutalizing them around every corner. The statistic, the narrative that is not supported by any stretch of the imagination. This is a dangerous and irresponsible post with a picture meant to instill fear and guilt. If you think it's not, then you're not paying attention. This is an op. If you feel guilty or feel that what they are doing is not right, but do not stand up or even say a word when a child in your community was brutalized by some illegal, you are the problem. The selective compassion is exactly why our country is in the full state of disrepair and disregard for the laws of our nation. If Americans commit sedition, they are dealt with the same way as anyone else who chooses to put illegals ahead of the interests of the people who are in fact citizens. So here's the reality. We're going to create a narrative. You can see where the news is going right now with this, that somehow we should be standing up and that we have a national crisis when we're eliminating illegals. We know that it's just these radical Democrats that are having this conversation, because I just had a conversation with a couple Democrats in my office that came to visit me, business people. And I asked them a simple question. If you could eliminate all of the illegal criminal activity we have in our state and give those opportunities to people who are good people, would you? And they all said yes. Now, we have created a narrative that doesn't exist. They're not a boogeyman just going out there looking for every single person that's here illegally. That's not the case. If you commit a crime, you're expelled from this country the same way you are in any other country around the world. So we've got a serious problem in our country, because much like 2020, they are running an op, which proves to me 2 things. One, people are not well informed. Most people are not well informed. They want to be well intended. So they're willing to do something that feels good that doesn't necessarily do good. And the other of which is that we have 2 sides of our government, and right now they're at war internally. So we have 2 factions inside of our government. You have the work that President Trump is doing, and then you have people that are on our side, say they're on our side, that are basically betraying the very people that they say that they swore an oath to protect. So with that said, I've got plenty of questions for our guests. I'm not going to make them wait much longer or any longer. I want to bring him in and have a conversation. So, Colonel, General, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Good to have you. So let me start by asking the two of you this question. Iran, what do we make of it?
General, go ahead.
Sure, I'll lead us off. What you've got is what looks like now is far less than protest than it is a revolution in progress. When you take away water and food, you go to hyperinflation, then suddenly you've got nothing left to lose. And so you're going to go at the regime. Millions are now joining in that. The thing where it gets very interesting is the rhetoric and what I would just call the absolute false reporting around this. Yes, there are altercations between the IRGC police and the revolutionaries, but the numbers that are being reported are not substantiated. They're not, you can want there to be a 2,000 person massacre, but there may not be. And in fact, the president even said, if you start shooting up your people, I'm going to take action. But here this morning, what we have instead of that is Ambassador Huckabee saying we're not seeking regime change. The Ayatollah wants to talk. And yet the Iranian people may take things into their own hands and take their country back, and God wish them well for that. The other part that I would say is everybody in the mainstream press, Joe, makes it their supposition that it's somehow our responsibility to reinstall the Shah's son, the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, whose father was impaneled by MI6 and arguably the CIA. What we have to do, and what I think the track that President Trump is following, is allow these nations to have self-determination. He didn't even engage in regime change in Venezuela. He just took the bad guy out, and we're working him right now. But you've got him caught in the middle of a crossfire between globalists and neocons, and then a ravenous group here that are ready to throw a rock at President Trump if he cures AIDS. So this is where the table is set. This thing could go left, right, up, down from this point right now. But what I think we're going to see is an Iranian people that quite organically, maybe with a little bit of intel help on the ground, takes care of its own problems. And it would be in our best interest if it could be that way, and not just go watch more endless war in a multi-front global conflict that we're fighting with the globalists. And so I'll leave it there. And I absolutely do remember meeting you, and I've met you twice. And so that's great. Thanks for having me on.
Colonel?
So anytime anything like this happens, I have to admit now, after the research that I've done, I'm always suspect at the very beginning. And since I'm new to your audience, I just want to clarify something. When I talk about the CIA, I'm not talking about the current CIA leadership, because I do believe CIA Director Ratcliffe is a good guy. But I commonly refer to the CIA as the nefarious people that have constituted the CIA over the last 75 years. So my first instinct is to dig into who's over there and whether or not it's organic. Because at this point, I question all of this stuff. And to the best that I can find using the media and people on the ground over there who I follow, it does seem to be organic. Is there other countries that are present? Yes. And you have to try to discern what role that they would be playing there. Because there are people that operate under contract to the CIA that are not even under the control of the CIA. And so that's kind of my go-to, is looking for whether or not these uprisings are organic. Because as you pointed out in your post that you made, a large portion of them that I've researched are not organic at all.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty serious problem that we're facing right now, because and I shouldn't know it. Sorry, we had to set the camera. But one of, I mean, I just talked about a completely separate op. I mean, the op that I talked about had nothing to do with Iran. Now, you say that the CIA is good under Ratcliffe and that what he's doing is great.
No. I didn't say the CIA was good. I said the
leadership is good.
That he has in his immediate proximity. That in no way reflects all of the people that are there now, because they were all put there and hired into their current position by really bad people.
Yeah, so I mean that just gets to the institutional rot that we face in any institution, and I want to come back to kind of the two things that you're talking about, like with thinking that it's organic. The problem with thinking that anything that's organic is that it smells eerily similar to what happened in 1979 when they had the coup in Iran. Matter of fact, if you were to go back and look at videos, and the first thing I did this morning when I woke up is I started digging in to what was being said in the media, what was being said in the United States, and I will tell you, this is problematic for me, is the first thing that was said in the media was, this appears to be organic. This does not appear to be run by any sort of
disclaimer. Yeah, this is not an MK Ultra project. No MK Mockingbird was used in this. Go back to your life, citizen. That's funny.
That's kind of my research in looking at Operation Gladio and the instigation of regime changes and the destabilization. There's some well-known actors, and a lot of people think that the CIA, they're still under the illusion that the CIA doesn't operate inside of the United States, which is completely false. It's been proven throughout our history of the CIA that they do in fact operate here. They do
look no further than the election systems.
Oh yeah, no question.
Yeah, they do it through their assets. And just to give you a picture of this, I would use the guy that we brought back that was a trained assassin from the CIA from Afghanistan. He's in Washington. He still has a handler. Whether or not he was getting paid, we don't know. And he shows up in Washington, D.C. and shoots two National Guard people. People need to understand the car bomb that was detonated in Washington, D.C., that killed Ambassador Lettier from Chile was done from people that were handled by the CIA. So there are operations done here. The destabilization of Trump's first term, 4 soft coups was orchestrated on Trump, and every single one of them has ties to the CIA. They killed JFK. People need to get out of the habit of thinking that destabilization in the United States is done by someone else.
General?
Yeah, I also think you do well when you get to the top of the rung and you look at it from the highest altitude. It's much easier if we take a look at it through the prism of we the people global edition versus they the globalists. And I mean City of London, the top wealth families, all these wealth family offices, they run the World Economic Forum, the UN. They love the idea of you eating crickets and depopulation. You can call them whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. But these are the two sides, and their henchmen have been co-opted cartels, not co-opted cartels, rather the dirty parts of rogue intelligence agencies. MI6 has their fingerprints on just about every damn thing you could find over the last 100 years. And honestly, the trouble is that we immediately focus on the micro, usually as to what's fed to us in the news, when what we should be doing is what President Trump is doing, which is looking at the entire board. And if you want to take a good example, I think one of the most significant things when you look back at this period of history, 10, 15 years from now, is going to be President Trump's war on the cartels. Because, and this is how I explain it, is if you took a Jenga tower, like that game Jenga, and you made that tower, and that tower represented all of the illicit activity on the planet, all of the human trafficking, the pedophilia, Epstein crap, buying off of politicians at the local, state, federal levels and over and abroad, co-opting of currencies, theft, the illicit shadow private banking, the drugs, the narcotics, all of it. The cartels are the vascular system to all of that. So what's the president doing? The president is yanking on the bottom Jenga block. And they don't like, not only do they not like it, they're in a race to start World War III. They've tried in Europe, it hasn't worked yet. They've tried in the Middle East. This is why the president brilliantly flew the B-2s over Iran. Rather than give Netanyahu his unlimited war, he put a tourniquet on it and said, and that's why he used the word obliterated. I obliterated their nuclear capability, so it's done. Meaning he's cauterizing the wound or putting a tourniquet on the wound wherever they show up to create this. Why do they want to accelerate this right now? It's because of the financials. Their Ponzi debt-laden scam is going into the sewer. Look at the bond markets, look at the metals markets, the macroeconomics here matter. But they need a bag holder. They tried to make Putin the bag holder. They'd now like to make the Ayatollah the bag holder, or eventually Reza Pahlavi if they put him in there. Because the one thing that they've done throughout history is they play both sides. Would MI6 and the city of London back the Israelis and back the Iranians all at the same time through proxies and intermediaries and shell corps? Of course, been doing it forever. But now let's look at the golden giveaway that President Trump gave us, and that is the National Security Strategy and the Financial Stability Oversight Council document. The two together describe a world where we're going to have a multipolar world. You've heard Rubio talk about that many times. And it's going to be a world where, hey, look, this is our Western Hemisphere. This we shall defend. We're going to clean it up, and we're going to take undue influence out of it. We recognize that Russia and China also have equities here. We'll get that all sutured up. And we're not going to be sweethearts and allies. What we are is we're going to zone off and have sensible competition with each other. We'll probably have disagreements, but they're not going to be the types of disagreements that flirt with Oreshnik nuclear-tipped missiles cruising through the White House at Mach 10. So what the president is embarking on through those documents, and you're already seeing it play out in Venezuela, Iran, you're going to see it in Mexico damn soon, like hours. And that is we're going to not do this globalist game. We're not going to play the Bretton Woods game that the British got us to sign up for after World War II, or the nonsense that ended up being the central banking system in 1913 going forward. So you could actually, as a historian, you could make an argument the president is going to be responsible on the 250th birthday for actually ending the American Revolutionary War, because you know, the cool part about alternative media and shows like yours is that the scales are falling off. Americans especially are starting to see the truth. When you see Europe become full-on dictatorial and communist, and that we have no business being in NATO, you start to question things. We've been questioning since COVID, but it's accelerating.
Man, that's a lot. That's a lot to take in.
It's a lot for me.
Yeah,
I need a glass of water.
You know, so Colonel, I want to get your thoughts on this, but I want to say this. I want to kind of bookend what you're saying, General, and that is, I broke bread with President al-Bashir of Sudan. I sat down. I broke bread with him. I will not, discuss what details and what I spoke with during the period of time that I was there. But it's during the time where they had the referendum vote and the split of Sudan from South Sudan. And the rhetoric and the influence by the CIA in that environment was evident. And I could talk about the other countries that I was involved in as well. And it was never the respect of the sovereignty of any of those nations. It's the CIA was looking for ways that they could create, power and money, and they could combine those two things. And they always did it through a proxy. Now, whether we're talking about proxy of Europe or the Mossad or Israel and the neo. I'm glad you brought up the neocons, because it's really hard to ignore the fact that we have factions and groups of people that are hiding behind other good people. And I will say, You have Jewish people that are hiding behind Jews and saying anti-Semitic, when in actuality it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It's right in front of us. We can see it. So, but I remember the conversations that I would have with this world leader, and he would say things to me, and I would be like, and I would look over at Mark, and I'm like, Mark, if this is true, then we need to go check it out. We got to go look up and we got to go to Darfur. We got to go look and see if there's actually genocide and ethnic cleansing. And every time I turned over a rock, there was another CIA clam that just popped out, right? And it became debilitating because then I never knew what was or wasn't unless I touched it, smelled it. And even then, I had to make sure I stuck around a little while to make sure it wasn't just propped up.
Now you know why I made the comment about Iran. Because I've spent the last several years picking up all of those rocks all over the world. I've went all around the world, and I've looked at everything since post-World War II, and every single thing that, and again, you mentioned, I have a lot of degrees. I've taken a lot of history. I've read a lot of books, but it was always approved reading via the Air Force. You know, here's our chief's top books that we want you to read. And it really turned into almost like an indoctrination. This is our history, and you need to accept it as that. Don't look any further. And what you find is when you go back and you start reading, now that we have translatable internet connections and search engines, you can go back and actually read what was happening and what was being said in those countries. And you find out that basically our entire history of what we thought was going on is in fact not true. And I love what the general said about the cutting off the support mechanisms, because and I refer to this entity that controls all of this, the international syndicate, because it's a crime syndicate. And you mentioned Sudan. What I have come to realize is this syndicate decides where the resources are that they want to control. And the intelligence agencies work as a collective. It's not like you only ever find the CIA. You don't. As the general pointed out, you'll find MI6. Sometimes you'll find Mossad. Sometimes you'll find the Korean CIA. Sometimes you find in the previous operations, the German BND, which, by the way, was ran by a Nazi, Reinhard Gehlen, which is just mind-blowing. But they work collectively together in order to deliver the resources. And they do it by destabilizing the country, generally installing a military dictator, at least somebody that they control, under the guise of restoring democracy. They've never left a democracy yet. And, you know, there's 75 years of track record there that I can just recall off the top of my head, country by country, where this has been done. And that's what they're doing to the United States. This destabilization, anytime they have a president that they don't control, they'll get rid of them one way or the other. They'll try really hard. And there's entire institutions. I ran across the Albert Einstein Institute that was ran by Gene Sharp and a special operations colonel from the Army. And they literally have it's out on their website. They brag about it. They have video of how they go in to take things like Antifa, like BLM, and they train them to destabilize. These people are trained by professionals on how to orchestrate it. They did it in Bosnia. They've done it all over the world. They did it in Bangladesh here recently when they overthrew that government. And they're trained professionals that do nothing but go in and destabilize countries. So because we wanted a NATO base in Bangladesh, and the duly elected prime minister or president said, no, we're not going to do that because that's going to destabilize our country. And they're like, okay, well, we'll get rid of you.
So, General, what's you know, it's hard to disagree with anything you guys are saying, but I mean, I got to tell you, I go back to 2011, 2010, and I remember telling someone, if you want to find the CIA, it's under USAID. I was on a British show, a BBC show, in 2010.
It was actually the opposite.
I'm sorry?
It's actually the opposite. USAID serves as a front for the CIA.
Yeah. So, but I was there. Like I was in Kenya in 2008 when they had the power sharing agreement between Odinga and Kibaki, and I remember going through and I went to Somalia, and then I went to Uganda, and then I was in Libya, and so you'd have these conversations. People were like, "Where's your passport?" And I was like, "It's right here." And they're like, "Yep, that's mine." And they would take it, and they did. We need to take you in there, but we're not going to let you take your passport. One, they find out you're an American, you're dead. Two, we don't need you any signs that you've been in that country. And I'm thinking to myself, I never worked for the government. I never worked for any of these guys. I was there to help people, and it felt just dirty. But I remember being on this show about Jeffrey Sachs and the Millennium Project, and I was like, that guy is CIA. This is in 2009, 2010, right? And now he was an expert on how to save and get rid of poverty all over Africa. That didn't work. It never works, by the way. And then they just whitewash the internet, take it all off, and like, I didn't do that. What are you talking about? That was just a report I did. Anyway, so you get this thing that happens, and then all of a sudden, years later, it comes out, and now he's an expert in foreign policy and is on every show and is having meetings with Tucker Carlson. I'm like, make it make sense to me. And then we finally figure it out. How was I the smartest guy in the room back in 2010? How? General?
Look, that's a golden period of time. That's when I was in Kyrgyzstan. And I have a prime example of this. I was the naive Iron Colonel who went in there to save the base. My base was the world's largest bed and breakfast at Manas. We were serving up 15,000 meals during the surge. We were providing a third of the air refueling gas over Afghanistan. But the kids from the other side of the of DC, I guess they had a color revolution planned, and they didn't want to inform me about it, even though I got to meet with them once a week. And it was looking back that I started to see their fingerprints on things. I fought the good fight during the collapse of that country and the massacre that happened in Alito Square. I had absolutely gone into, 9 months before the revolution, I learned Kyrgyz. I was making speeches. I got our folks out there. We were not contracting humanitarian affairs. We just did them ourselves as airmen, and it pissed off just about everybody because we were not talking to government officials anymore. We knew it was a cooked regime that was evil. So it was ugly American time. We had to kind of change the deal. And I started investing in women's programs, entrepreneurship, anything that would piss off the enemy in the South, which were incarnations of the Taliban.
Right.
And then every time my boss, General Petraeus, would show up, we would all be at the embassy, and he'd ask who was supporting my mission. And one of the USAID director said, well, we don't really have anything to do together. And it was amazing to me because I just thought she didn't like us or didn't like military, and nothing could have been further from the truth. Where I started to get a little suspicious is when my civil engineers, which were kicking ass all over the country, they went into Bishkek, taught them how to build high-speed internet and get it to us. We created a mess of jobs, and it was pissing off State Department and CIA something fierce. I just didn't know that I was pissing them off. So here we get to this love affair with the country. I'm now doing live Kyrgyz TV that's broadcast into Moscow living rooms with my blues on. And, everybody's like, holy shit, this is the transit center director. This is the guy. And it's like, wow, we're changing our fortunes here. Petraeus is happy as he could possibly be. And then I go to the USAID director and I go, hey, we just found out in the southern part of the country that all your USAID water projects are toast. They're broken. Oh, happy day. I'm going to save you. I'm going to run my engineers down there, and we're going to fix all these things and get them water. And the thing is well, if I know what they were thinking, which is if you do that, then we won't have pissed off villagers. Yeah. And how are we going to get this revolution going if you do stuff like that? So she got mad and she said, we're not going to let you do that. And I just I reported it back up the chain, and everybody patted me on the head, go be a good colonel. And then all hell breaks loose. 71 are killed, gunfire on my wing. Bakiev flees the country. And then the Russians, air quotes, because it wasn't the Russians, start to choke me off from my own gas because they want to get rid of the base. So what was Langley doing? They were threatening my mission. They were threatening the Afghanistan mission because of the logistics, and they were threatening our friends in Kyrgyzstan. And all the while, I'm not. I thought I was fighting the damn Russians and the Chinese in Kyrgyzstan. It turns out I was fighting my own tribes just across the Beltway.
Yes.
And it would take years later. They sent me to be, I guess, properly educated at the Council on Foreign Relations afterwards. That only made things worse because now I'm working with the most evil people on the planet, and I could tell. And then I grow up from there and go into other things. But it's really in hindsight, now that we can see the world for what it is, and it was really after I got off of active duty, because my bubble popping moment was that I didn't have a front row seat, but I had a second row seat to Benghazi. I was a logistics director at UCOM. And that's where silently in my own brain, I wanted to end my military career, because I saw things at the highest levels that I was like, okay, I'm not consistent with my oath. I'm going to have to find an exit here. But it's when you get out, then you start to put it all back together again. And you're like, wait a minute, hold up. And then when we recently found that Doge stuff on USAID, I'm like, okay, I think I have the right pieces in the puzzle box here. It was Colonel Mustard with the pipe wrench in the conservatory. I got the whole thing now. Thanks, guys. That's where we're at.
Well, Colonel, I'll let you kind of add to this, but before you do, General, do you know General Gratian, Scott Gratian?
I haven't met him.
So he was a special envoy to Sudan. And he started out, he was appointed under, I can't remember if it was 2008. He became a special envoy to Sudan. And I remember when he was coming in, we would provide these reports about what was really happening. And so as soon as he kind of figured it out, kind of like you figured it out,
right?
He was on the outs, like, get him out of here, right?
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
Well,
let me ask you this. Do you think that they let officers only stay in assignments for 2 to 3 years because they're so interested in our professional development and that everybody could potentially become a 4-star general? Or is it that really smart minds, if they get to stick around for 7 to 8 years, might figure out that they're in a casino and that there's actually gambling going on here? I would argue that, especially at the general officer level, that if you let a few generals, like if you had left me at UCOM as the logistics director for, I don't know, 5 years, I'd have had this NATO shit down to a science. It would have been, okay, I get where this is going. We are at the tail end of trillions of dollars of corruption, and somebody's going to have to do something about that evil club there in Davos. That's where that was going to end up going. But what they do is they're like, okay, well, we got to get you this experience so we can consider you for bigger and better. Well, eventually bigger and better is do whatever the hell you're told, and you'll get your board assignment at Billy's defense company, and you'll make 400 large for 3 meetings. And that ought to be done away with too.
Absolutely. Colonel?
He's not wrong.
I mean, and look, I didn't have a seat at the table on the government side. I never worked for the government. You could almost say that the problems that I solved when I was there, people used to ask me, you guys have obviously more education. I went to a state school, so my books were lighter. They had less information in them. But I was really good at solving problems. And but the things that you're talking about, I saw. Like, I saw those things in real time.
Well, the difference is we saw them too, but we didn't have the context to make them make sense. Because when you're in the military and you've decided that you're willing to give your life for your country, it never dawns on you that there are people in our country in charge of it that are evil. Because if you did, you'd have to leave. So you go along through your career with the assumption, and you're told constantly, reinforced with all of our professional military education, we're the good guys.
Yeah.
And you honestly believe it.
Yeah.
And so it's not until you, as the general said, when you leave and you start broadening your education basis, or you start having time, and the point that he's making while they move us every couple of years, I mean, my middle daughter went to 11 schools in 12 years. That's how often we move. So you don't have time with your job and everything that's going on in your life, deployments, wars. I mean, the last, 20, 30 years we've been at war. So you're constantly going on deployments. You don't have time to contextualize everything that's coming at you. It is only after you retire in that kind of decompression phase that you're going, what was that? And for me, once I started reading the unapproved book list and started going back over my career, I was at U.S. Central Command on 9/11. I was having lunch about 3 months later. So, around January 2002. And I had a lot of friends in the intelligence area of J2, of CENTCOM. And they were just talking about, most of the time, because I was not intel, I just didn't have a whole lot to say when we were together. And they were talking about all of these countries that they had just gotten a tasking to do an in-depth profile on. And I come to find out, when I started doing my own research, that those were the countries that General Wesley Clark talked about, 7 countries in 5 years, and they were doing it in the immediate aftermath of 9/11.
Yeah.
And that just literally blew my mind. And I know they did it because I was listening to them talk about it.
I know. Roxane, what gets me is, and I didn't learn this until I was a colonel, maybe a little older, but you really owe it to yourself to trust your instincts. And when you're a young major or a young captain, you just don't. And
drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, you get fed this crap, and you're like, well, I guess this is what it is. I remember when 9/11 happened, and we were all like, you mean to tell me there are actually Americans out there who don't think it went down the way we saw it go down on TV? And I was like, yeah, what the hell's wrong with those people? And it's like, now it's like, what the hell's wrong with me? But when 9/11 happened, and I was a war planner, baby lieutenant colonel at European Command, my first time there. And I remember talking with others before the actual concept of operations came down to us about what the hell we were going to do. And all I was thinking my entire time, probably because I'm an airman, but I was thinking, okay, this is a global war on terror. That means we got to be everywhere all at once. Very small, limited operations with big effects, lots of asymmetric warfare. We're probably going to be doing a lot of electronic crap, sneaky Pete cyber stuff. And then the Army boys across the desk were like, no, we're going in with big, massive invasion forces. We'll probably start with Afghanistan, maybe Yemen, but definitely somewhere along the path, Iraq's going to get it. And I looked at them like, okay, you guys are Looney Tunes. That's nuts. This is a global war on terror, kids. So we're not going to go spend all that money, and we're not going to go have anchored in armies. We would never do something. That's just dumb. We can't win that way. And then here comes the plan. And we're like, whoa, hey, what are we doing?
But General, who's coming up with these rules? Who's actually the one that is creating all of this chaos? Because I look at the government apparatus.
It was cooked.
And this brings me back to the 1940s, 1950s with the Wizard of Oz. It's real. I mean, if you look at the Wizard of Oz, that's a really good analogous to it reminds me of, there is someone behind the curtain. Who is it?
There is. So you're completely correct. And this comes out of a thing called the National Security Council. And so what happens is you can have, and in the Pentagon, we have the best planners in the world. I mean, you want to go find the ghost of von Clausewitz, go to the 5-sided Wonder Palace. You'll find him. Right. You just got to go to cubicle 85 on the D-ring and you'll find him. But the I got you. But the problem is you get the National Security Council kids who all went to the Ivy Leagues. They've never worn a stitch of uniform in their life. They would be scared to death to hold a 9mm in their hands. They've got toy soldiers in their desk drawers, and then they come up with the scheme of ops. But what they are steeped in is private equity, investment, banking, the defense industrial base, monopolies, who's important on the Hill and who's not, what lobbying firms matter, which ones don't, and what they want their next job to be. And out of that is how you get your war plan. So the war plan that comes down as tablets from Moses is thou shalt build 130,000 force army, and after a really cool special ops opening, we're going to really get after these people, and we're going to get the Taliban out of the 9th century and into the 10th century.
Well, and Joe, if I might, one of the looking into the CIA, you stumble across all of their money laundering, the drug trafficking, and how they pay for their covert operations with illicit arms sales. So one of the projects that I took on was looking at where all of the drug origins are. And I was astonished when I found out in the end of it. So, we were in Afghanistan via proxy in the 80s, fighting the Russians.
Yeah.
And
We
then,
didn't win then either.
no, and we kind of hang around. And so the opium supply in Afghanistan just like is ginormous. So we kind of have a lot less presence there, and the Taliban takes over. And by the year 2000, almost all of the opium was gone, almost all of it. And then what happens? Oh, that's right. 9/11 happens. We go back into Afghanistan. And if you just look on Grok and say, what is from the 1980s until 2020, what was the opium production of Afghanistan? And it will blow you away, because they were able to get rid of it, but that cuts into the profits of covert operations. And so as soon as we go in after 9/11, it skyrockets. It doubles what it was before that.
They have multiple ways they have multiple ways to avoid oversight. The black op to the black program to the contractor to the non-governmental organization, they'll go do the dirty work. We don't have to do it. It's off book. Don't worry about it. And they use all these monies, and this is why I believe President Trump has got a weapon aimed right at the deep state, which is an enabler. They're middle management. They're not the big deal. They're the middle guys.
Yeah.
By squeezing off all these activities that the cartels have provided. And so what we'll see, and I think this is very important to your audience, is the more pressure you see, especially after the Mexico piece starts to roll out, then the more the bad guys will be on the run and under pressure, and the more likely they are to activate cartel linked with terror cells here in the United States. And we will have to keep our heads on a swivel, because after 4 years of the wide open borders, they outnumber the hell out of us and our first responders.
So sorry, Colonel, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is the cartels are their network that they use for the distribution. There's a lot of layers up above them. And they definitely, what President Trump is doing is cutting the legs out from under them, as the general articulated. And it's critically important to the overall operation that's being done. But as he also points out, that's going to pressure them, and they're going to make some decisions that potentially increase the risk inside of the United States, which, of course, is why the timing of this has been so important. You could not address the drug, narco, I call them chemical weapons because they're basically made out of chemicals. You could not address that without having ICE all over the United States, where all of the major hubs of the network is. And if you look at where the major hubs are, that's where ICE is. And so they're taking out pieces of that apparatus already.
All right, so now I'm gonna drop some truth bombs on you guys, okay? And I think you probably know this, so it's probably just teaching the teacher. But if we start looking at the apparatus of the narco unit, and it is not a parallel government inside of Mexico or even in Venezuela. It is right here in the United States. And look, I always said this. I was like, look, loose lips sink ships. And I personally have never done drugs, but at 16 I sold them, and I got to see the apparatus from the inside there. Sold them meaning I was a mule, and so people liked me because I kept my mouth shut. As I got older and got into things that I had no business, and a seat at the table doing things that I had no business doing because I see dead people. I don't actually know how I became successful doing the stuff that I do. But beyond that, just put that aside for a second. There's been many times that I've sat at the same table with politicians, senators, reps, state, federal, people in government that are doing a line of cocaine. I mean, if you want to talk about the apparatus itself, the supply goes to people at the very top. So
That's
how
right.
do you?
Yeah, I've made this point repeatedly. We just finished doing a book on the mafia, CIA, and George Bush, and in that book, it talks about the Bushes, Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush's first job was a money launderer at a bank in Venezuela. That was his very first job.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of how connected. Lloyd Benson, the entire savings and loan debacle of the 1980s was a money laundering operation for the
that's
mafia
true.
and the CIA.
Yep.
So I'm very aware. And it was all of the politicians in Texas. It was Jack Kemp. There's so many politicians that are involved in this. Orrin Hatch is mentioned in there. So I'm very aware that the controllers and this international syndicate that I talk about, prior to President Trump, the only drug cartels that were ever taken out were competitors that were doing shit that the CIA didn't like. That's it. That was our war on drugs.
So this becomes a much more complicated deal because if you go back to the Kennedy era, that's why Kennedy got assassinated.
Exactly. Well,
So-
there's a big Israel piece in there as well.
All right. Well, General, please tell us, because I think I know where you're going with this, and I agree with you 1,000%, but you have more knowledge on this.
So whenever somebody says, well, what about this intelligence agency, the CIA, or what about Mossad, or what about MI6? My question, I always answer with a question and say, really, which one do you mean? Do you mean the good people that are there serving their country and trying to be good intel officers and operatives? Or do you mean the deep state, of which the deep state was hatched many years ago? You could argue that it really came into its being in the early 50s. But when you get to the Alan Dulleses of the world, the guys who Alan Dulles is just an absolute psychopath. And as the founder of the CIA, he had little or to no use for the Constitution. And they had a marvelous time as long as the presidents would play ball for them. Eisenhower warned us about this as best he could from his podium at his farewell address. Well, he didn't, JFK saw this well enough and good and understood that his desire to dissolve the CIA or severely limit its powers, his desire to curtail Israel influence with its lobbying arms in our politics was problematic. And so they started building files, and eventually they built an operation. And I hope the actual truth does come out one day, but it probably is just like everything Epstein right now, where, we can't show you that because you might understand that there's a hell of a lot more going on here than just sex or pedophilia, as if that weren't bad enough. But we can't have who's paid off in D.C. and who's co-opted and has been for years, because if everybody understood how many people are owned, you might ask deeper questions. So my thing is, I think the deep state is a very good term for a transnational organization made up of rogue intel assets and their shadowy overlords.
So I'm going to push back a little bit on the Eisenhower comment.
That's fine.
Eisenhower is the guy that hired Alan Dulles and John Foster Dulles. Mm-hmm. He is also the one that overthrew Iran, and he is also the one that overthrew Guatemala. I don't think he was warning us about it. I think he was telling us exactly what he did.
I'm not sure all of that. So where I would come back at you, Roxane, in the nicest of ways and the most polite, genteel of ways.
This is fun.
You don't have to be gentle with me.
is that, I think there were coercions in Eisenhower and his presidency that did not allow him the latitude for whatever reason. If you told me that, if you don't take this particular action, we're actually going to kill your daughter right in front of your face, I don't know what I'd do. I don't know how I'd react to that. And I don't know how Ike would have. But I want to take you back even further when he was a general. Patton gets killed. Patton gets murdered. Not a car accident. Everybody assumes the Russians did it because Patton said, well, maybe we ought to just rally up the Nazis and go get the Russians. But let me posit a different outcome. What if Ike and Patton, who were very dear friends, I mean the closest of
Yes,
friends,
they were.
started to understand the city of London and all of its complexities and what Wild Bill Donovan was really doing there? And what if they understood the nature of Paul Nitz, and I know this firsthand, from, at least from his daughter. I used to be friends with George Kennan's daughter, Grace Warnicki Kennan. They perverted everything he said in the long telegram. It's not what he meant. And Eisenhower presided over all that, watched it, and yet he comes up with that farewell address. And then not soon thereafter, JFK, who actually had a pretty good handover, doesn't make it very far into his presidency. I'm just telling you that I wouldn't necessarily tag Eisenhower with stuff. You might say he could have been exploited or extorted.
So General Eisenhower, during World War II, oversaw and knew about Operation Sunrise, which was the agreement of General Wolfe, Allen Dulles, and his logistician, Major General Lyman Lemonsker, that they were going to flatline the generals out of Nazi. And that was a direct violation of what General Roosevelt said that he wanted to have done, because he wanted them all to have accountability. So there were other things about General Eisenhower, and he was in meetings that had to do with setting up, while he was SACURE, of the stay-behind units that created Operation Gladio. I mean, he oversaw that. So I
think the difference is you're saying he's a complicit player and his heart's in it, and I'm saying I'm not certain that that's true.
He's a complicit player, whether his heart was in it or not.
So I actually
know as well as I do. He was a commander.
So people are complicated when it comes to leadership.
And I know I am.
Well, I mean, you go back to people that did things early on in their career, and as they got further on, you just talked about it before, you're in the middle of it, you don't know what you're doing, you're still, I mean, you find yourself in a place where people are asking you to do things, and then years later you figure out why it contributed to things that you wouldn't want to be a part of if you knew ahead of time, right? And in part, that's why I brought up Scott Gration, General Gration, is because he went through that same deal, but he was very polished, very good at listening, and very good at then instituting, or, you know, we call it war rooming or playing chess after the fact. So I've done a lot of research, and I've read a lot of books about Eisenhower, and very complicated man, frankly.
Absolutely.
But you know, if you look at the fruit of his labor during his life, you know, he got in trouble several times for going against the grain of what you would consider the deep state, if that's what it was back then. So there's things that are antithetical to, I think, him being a bad guy, but there's other things, the decisions he made, that makes him complicit in some of the bad things that happen. So it's enough to give us bipolar disorder, which is why I always say left or right. You gotta be really careful, because I know people when they do ops, I can identify it pretty quickly. But I've been wrong.
But I'm not, and I want to make sure everybody understands this. I'm not judging him. I don't know where his heart was. I want real history. I want to know what really happened and the facts. It's just like when people talk about Ronald Reagan being our best president, and then you bring up the fact that, you know, Iran-Contra happened, and they start, you can see their brains. I mean, he gave Big Pharma the liability waivers for vaccines, and their head just starts exploding. And I'm sorry if facts hurt your feelings, but I don't care.
No, you don't hurt my feelings. Come on. I don't even disagree with you. I didn't have a seat at some of those tables. Now,
my feelings are hurt. Actually, I have one feeling, and it is hurt now.
So if I can bring this up, I have dogs, and two of my dogs, one is named Reagan, and the other one is named Ollie.
So I have a whole show on Oliver North. Are you kidding me?
So I actually like Oliver North. So yeah, so I have a dog named Reagan for Ronald Reagan, and I have a dog named Ollie for Oliver North. And so I've studied the Iran-Contra deal, and I've studied Oliver North, and This is where you guys will start throwing rocks at me.
No, but I will say in
yeah.
the Reagan case, and it's something that I think President Trump's got to be very mindful of. Anything done in your administration, ultimately from a historical perspective, will be on your tab. And so the problem is you've got our president today who is absolutely taken on the biggest fight I think we've taken on since our founding. I'll just say that about the cartel thing. And it's very consuming. And yes, the man is playing 5D chess, whether you like it or not. That's exactly what's going on here. Well, while that's happening, do you think there's people on the admin that are taking advantage of the bandwidth he does not have, and that they're running their own agendas and they're running their own deals? Well, I mean, you can look at Tulsi Gabbard's frustration as she tries to go about getting her mission done, and she's openly and in the press fought by other members of the administration. In other words, could things happen in the next couple of years that get subscribed to President Trump's tab, whether he likes it or not, whether it's kind or unkind? And everybody will have their reasons for why things happen. And I think that there's going to be cases where Ronald Reagan chose probably the least worst of bad options. And then there's going to be times when they absolutely did stuff below radar. I know for a fact that Ronald Reagan did not have 100% of the fact pattern on the Iran-Contra thing. However, did he know enough? Did he know enough about it to have some stains on him? Yeah, I believe that too. It's not a pretty job. It's not a pretty job. But both men inherited absolute messes. I would argue President Trump's inherited a much bigger mess, since you've got these craven psychopaths that seem to think that we can all survive a nuclear holocaust.
Well, that leads me to the what's next, right? So we all know that history is written by the victors. That's why we've gotten some of the stories we've gotten out of World War II that I think that frankly we've gotten wrong. But and if you look at history over the last 80 years, the facts they state are not supported by the outcome, frankly.
Right.
But let's talk about from Ronald Reagan working up and seeing this, and I'm sorry, I'm going to call it a uniparty, but the betrayal of the American people over...
There's no aisle. There's no aisle.
Yeah.
None. Zero aisle. There's some good Americans, and it's in a sea of shit.
Yeah.
Pardon my Chinese.
So that I'm glad you pointed that out, because that we have seen the haves and the have-nots, and they have nothing to do with being an R or a D, conservative, liberal, progressive. Right. None of that stuff matters, right? And I think this is my mission. My mission is that I'm going to look at ideology from a very, very microspective lens.
Right.
But if you look at the handoffs that happened, let's say Bush Sr., because I think that's when you saw that influence of CIA in Reagan's administration, and then Clinton, which went against, I mean, he'd be a modern, he would have been a modern Republican today, right? And then you look at, but the handoffs.
He was still a criminal, though.
I'm sorry?
He was still a criminal, though.
Oh, of course he was, but that they only elected criminals, and then you had Bush, the third, and then you have all of these things that are stacked on top of each other, and then you have a disruptor that comes in Trump, that basically played the game of who moved my cheese over 4 years, and the obstructors were the Republicans, not the Democrats. But I want to ask both of you this question, and you guys can figure out who answers first. We don't have a nation, and we have nothing unless we can create some permanent environments where things are not temporary. President Trump's 4 years were undone in less than 30 days, and it went drastically the other way by 300 degrees, right?
Right.
We've only been able to claw back 10%. The 90% of the damage that was done by Joe Biden is being supported and blocked by Republicans again, just like it happened in 2017, which led to the midterms in 2018, which saw the House, the Senate, and everything flip, and then the impeachments that followed that. We're in the same boat right now, and there's no permanency to what's happening. So doesn't President Trump have to get to a place where he goes super drastic, and he's running out of time, by the way, super drastic to the point where he starts pulling different plugs out, Insurrection Act, to get to a place where we can get free and fair elections and remove the boogeyman that we can't see that we know exists?
Yeah. So here's where I see us. It's my prayer every day, Joe, and I'm certain that both of you share it with me. We had better start seeing very, very soon things that are massive. And what I mean by that is we have two rails that are of great danger to us as a nation. One, the executive orders are not codified. There is no action on Doge. I put those two things in the same bucket, meaning the Congress with no aisle is against the president. It is the swamp versus him. But the other part of this is the illegality. And if there's not to be a season of accountability, and I mean radical accountability, that means we call a traitor. That means we issue the appropriate sentences. That means the appropriate, we're not bashful about having tens of thousands of indictments. We're not bashful about arranging for a process that holds these people to account. If we do not do that, the bad guys, especially here in this country, these 4 years of Trump have scared the living daylights out of them. They won't be nearly as kind as they were during the Biden administration. And what will happen on the other side of this administration, if they are to take power again, will be nothing more than the final destruction of the republic, the loss of our freedoms, the loss of our Constitution. I understand how hyperbolic this sounds and how sky is falling this sounds and how alarmist it sounds, but I'm afraid those are the stakes. And if you don't have the courage to at least call the stakes what they are, then we're already in real trouble. And so those are the areas where we are way far behind the timelines on what's required to get to this. And honestly, if nothing happens between now and the summertime on those topics, well, then we're going to have the midterms. The Republicans will gladly hand over the reins of power to the Democrats because they know they will impeach Trump within weeks. And those are the outcomes. And then we're in the place that I've described.
So I'm going to
go ahead.
ray of sunshine here.
I'm with the generals, but go ahead, hit me.
So I
White pill me.
I believe that during Trump's first administration, that the mapping of all of these networks occurred. If you look at what he did in the first 30 days of the second term, I mean, he went boom, USAID, boom, let's take this out, let's take this out. There was so much happening, and there's been so much happening. And we talked about him pulling out all of the bottom pins of the Jenga tower. So if what we talked about earlier, and I don't believe it's an if, I believe it's a when, as Mexico is confronted, and Colombia, which is the source of over 80% of the cocaine, those two linchpins are going to make the tower fall. You're going to see some immediate response from cells in the United States. It's at that point that I believe the Insurrection Act will occur, because the foundation is being laid for it right now. You have totally out of control people in America. We have way too many illegals. And I think then it's all bets are off. And that's the way I see it happening. And
I agree. It's just got to happen. I mean,
yes,
that's my hope. That's my hope. We've got to see it go.
But we already see all of the beginnings.
The setup's looking encouraging.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna tell you guys, I put up a post. I'm seeing if I can find it really quick, because it caused a bit of it caused a lot of problems. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. Okay. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation, because last week. So last week, well, let's go back to December. In December, I was told at the end of December that we're going to war. I came on the show and I was like, listen, there's been some signaling that happened that says we're going to war. You had something that Elon said to somebody else. Somebody called me and said, Joe, you have no idea what's about to happen, but you're going to be happy. And I was like, oh, okay, great. That's awesome. So I came on here and I'd relate it because I I said, what can I say? Because I do believe loose lips sink ships. I think we have a responsibility not to do anything that could be harmful,
that's true.
right?
Yeah.
And so I said on this show that we're going to war and that we need to prepare for it. Now, nobody saw us reaching into a sovereign nation and plucking out the leader while eating Skittles. And I have to tell you, that's in essence what happened. And then we said, oh, by the way, we're taking your $20 trillion in oil, right? And everybody said that's not war. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not war, but it certainly isn't tea and crumpets. We can agree to that, right?
It's war-ish.
Yeah, it's war-ish.
It's war-ish. Yeah.
You can say what you want. That's pretty drastic.
It's an operation.
I mean, 2 weeks before that happened, Xi Jinping and Putin were both in Venezuela. So I think it's pretty gangster to walk in there and be like, gotcha, now what?
Yeah, well, they cut a deal. I believe there's some communications with Moscow and Beijing before the whole thing went.
Well,
1,000%.
If you go back in time, Rick Grinnell was over there right after Trump came in. There's all kinds of communication that has indicated that there was communication and that they were going to implement basically a continuity of government in Venezuela and tag.
All right,
Maduro.
so let me just tell my theory because I think it's tied. And I got a phone call from the same person who said this to me, and I put this post up on Saturday. Now I got a phone call on Saturday that said, Joe, this is at 12 o'clock. Same source that told me we would be going to war just a week before 47 plucked Maduro out of his nation just told me this. The next 2 weeks will bring indictments and arrests for former Dominion voting systems employees and state and federal sitting and former representative leadership across the nation. I pray that God protects those seeking to free the people from the state-by-state treason which has occurred. This means no machines, no mail-in ballots, in-person voting with an ID, and the undoing of the massive amount of fraud, grift, and theft against the American people, quote unquote, let my people go. Okay, so this hit, I don't know, 600, 700,000 people, 800, I don't remember how many. The amount of backlash that I got from putting this up was ginormous. I had people reaching out to me, telling me that I had this guy, Brian Cates out of Florida, you're letting out national security secrets. Before I put anything out there, by the way, I make sure that I'm almost like a useful idiot, okay? I'll ask the question, do you want me to put this out? They're like, yes, please poke the bear. I'm like, okay, I'll poke the bear, done. Poke. I will stir that bee's nest till the cows come home because I've learned to trust certain people.
Sure.
Now, with that said, what do you think the possibilities are of something like this happening over the next couple of weeks?
Well, I don't do timelines, but the Dominion voting machine fiasco is going to get revealed. And it's most likely that Maduro is going to be the one that does it. But I don't believe that the narrative that is out there about the way that whole operation works is per the CIA, it's Venezuela. Yeah, because I don't believe anything the CIA says.
It's CIA. They recruited Coomer. Yeah. I'm telling you right now. Like I'm a system architect. I went to Washington on January 4, 2021. I wrote a model. Remember, I was literally a tech guy that was going to sell my company for $200 million. I happened to stand up for people in my community because it was burning down during the COVID deal. I wasn't a part of the election stuff until Coomer got on the call. And I was up elk hunting when all that stuff happened. And then that didn't happen. I got slandered from both. That's why I know there's no aisle. Yeah. Both sides. And I've spent millions of dollars. And now I'm a podcaster. I've been relegated as a podcaster.
So I don't have any tech experience at all, but I do have research that says from 1948 until yesterday, the CIA has been involved in election interference in every consequential election around the world. And I can document it. And so somebody's not going to tell me.
Colonel, I literally took I built a model. I went to Washington, met with John Eastman and everyone else.
I remember.
And I was like, this is what's going to happen. And they they started to laugh at me. Then I met with NSA guys and they're like, how did you know this? And I was like, because I'm clairvoyant. Then on the 5th at night, they woke me up.
Yeah.
They woke me up and said, how did you know? And I'm like, listen, I read every RFP, RFQ, looked at the manuals, and that's when the attacks on my family just intensified, right? From our side.
Right.
Yes, our side.
Well, they're all making money. They're all making bank, or they're all co-opted. It's one or the other.
But how did I know? How did I know how they were going to affect the Senate runoff race? Why did I predict it with such precision? And then why am I nuclear after that? I mean, everyone's like, how did he know? Well, because I understand how systems work, which is why I know that the Dominion people, and now I've done all the math and the algorithm research and dissertations, and I understand how Coomer came about. I learned all of it, right? I still have a trial. I have a trial coming up in April for defamation, and I never lied about anything.
Yeah. Well, what will be lovely to see is when the backlash does come. I just would love to see all those people rot and get what's coming. But in terms of timelines, it's very clear to me. It's March 5th, 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern. We're going to see the entire. No, I'm just kidding. There's what you have to say is that even though the president has a plan and a strategy and he's moving forward, in warfare, you've always got to understand that the enemy gets a vote. And while you can be very good about red teaming your enemy and predicting their next move and the second and third order effects, they understand that you're working that way. And so it's a circle inside of a circle inside of a circle. In the Air Force, we call it the OODA loop. And, and you gotta, and it's who's going to get inside of whose OODA loop quicker and faster and make decisions faster. And that's why I think a lot of us get frustrated when we see just volumes, delusions of evidence since Inauguration Day go sailing by our faces. And, right now the president has a better arrest record than Pam Bondi. He arrested one and in Venezuela, and she's arrested nobody. So this is where we're at. We want to see it go.
Yeah, no, it is. What's fascinating to me about everything that we're going through right now is the amount of alignment with the people who are legitimately good people going forward, right? That you can start to see the wheat from the chaff being separated. Yeah. And the result of that is, look, when somebody attacks me, now I just have no patience for it. I don't actually get upset anymore. I'm just like, okay, you're just, do what you're going to do.
Right.
I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And, I'll see you on the other side, right? But it is, we're in a really amazing place. Hey, listen, I appreciate you guys coming on. I have loved this. General, I wish you didn't have that.
Sorry.
Newsmax.
We're working on it every day.
Because I wanted to see your face when I put up that post. I wanted to just be able to read your expression. Because I think that one of the things that I've learned through all this is that you never have to run away from the truth. But if you speak the truth, they will find a way to get other people to run away from you.
That's
right?
Yeah.
And so I just have become patient with the idea that God is in control. We even say that the bad guys have a story or have a seat at the table. So does God. Matter of fact, he created the table.
That's right. That's exactly it. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity to sit down on your podcast. I'm a fan of all that you've done with this stuff. It's, I'm very big into promoting Americans now need to come to service, and we need to see a rebirth of the American citizen servant leader. I see it all over the country, from Doc Pete Chambers running for governor in Texas, and on and on and on. But Americans are pissed, and they're waking up, and that is my source of optimism in addition to our faith in God.
All right, General, how do people follow you?
Well, come see me at my podcast. I'm at dangerousintellectuals.com. Today's episode has my friend Navy SEAL Mike Sorelli on there talking about leadership in chaotic times. And I'm at Newsmax. I write a column called The Irascible Disruptor, and I'm always contributing probably about 5-6 hits a day on Newsmax and radio and wherever.
All right, awesome. I appreciate you being on. God bless you, and thanks for coming on. I'll follow you on your podcast. And then, do you have a X handle? People can follow you as well?
It's at Danger Thinking.
Okay, I'll follow you right now.
I knew
I
that
probably
would
already
tickle
do
you,
follow.
Roxane.
Right. Danger
Yeah, I
thinking?
saw your announcement when you first started doing your podcast, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to love this one.
Here we go. At Danger Thinking. I
Right,
even
I'm
have
following
Stephen
you now.
Greer on one of these things. That was fun.
Well, I'm excited to and I see your podcast now, so I'll watch the latest episode.
Always at your service.
All right, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you for your service too, very much.
you.
All right, God bless you,
God bless.
Colonel.
Yes.
How do people follow you?
I do a Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. normally when I don't have an awesome invite like this. We do book reviews in spaces on Rumble. And on Rumble, my channel is The Colonel's Corner. I also have a Substack called The Colonel's Corner. And on X, my handle is at Colonel spelt out Towner.
At Colonel, what is it on X?
It's Colonel spelt out, not abbreviated. Towner, Towner.
Oh, I was following you already. Oops, I just unfollowed you. Then I just refollowed you again. Sorry. Now I'm following you again with the follow.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for just all the work that you've done, and thank you for just staying committed, right, to the people. I think that we are in a weird place. I have started to take my baseball bat out less and just recognize that we're kind of all on the same team. And then I do smack people like Brian Cates around a little bit because like, national security secrets. I was like, you have no idea what that means, right? So it's always fun. It's always fun. But thank you for coming on. God bless you.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. This was an amazing interview. I loved having them on. I loved having them on because of the amount of knowledge that they have. So you must go follow them. And then you have the Colonel's Corner on Substack. Go there as well. I was already subscribed to that, so I get the emails. And if you could contribute, obviously on Substack you can contribute to that as well. And then in General Holt, please make sure you take the time to follow him as well and to watch his podcast. We are, as we talk about some of the things, I'm going to go back to this for a minute. We talk about this timeline. I think it's really important to understand that although my friend said within the next 2 weeks, I think about things as timelines being fluid. I hope it's 3 days, frankly, but we don't know. We just don't know. We don't know what time will allow. I certainly was disappointed when we went into the first of the year and nothing happened. And I was like, and I wanted to call my friend and be like, you dogged me. And then all of a sudden we plucked Maduro out and everyone acted like that was not a big deal. Like the media thought it was not a big deal. CNN didn't talk about it. It was like a blackout of all sorts, and we reached into a nation and took out their leader. And you saw a quiet come over radical leftists and people in Congress. Not just though on the left. It went quiet on the right too. And it's really important that you understand signals, and signals are really important. It's sometimes when I was overseas, I was learning on the job. So someone would ask me to go in and look at something or fix something or look at this project or that project, or hey, this is what's happening with Bashir and this is what's happening in Darfur, and hey, this is what's happening in Somalia. And so they just say, Joe, can you take a look at this? And I would look at it, and it was mostly a test. Like, I wonder if this guy can figure this out. And I typically did. I could solve problems. Don't ask me how I did it. I don't know. But I was enough of a threat to that deep state that we started talking about because of the conversations I would have, and I was articulate, and I would just read books. But I became really, really good at seeing signals. And I was more concerned about the things that people didn't tell me than what they did tell me. And it's the idea that when you walk up to something and you could see people pause and then they'll move around it. I even do it. Everyone does it. It's human nature. Those are called signals. So you walk up to a story and then you basically cut out a part of the story and then you continue. That's usually what you want to look for, because that bore the most fruit. It would tell you what the underpinnings are if you're dealing with a social conflict or a tribal dispute, or we're talking about the transfer of oil or oil proceeds from Sudan to South Sudan, or even things related to sanctioned nation status and Kanana sugar, which is a part of Sudan. Most people don't know this. And the different agreements that they had in different countries, or how does Dubai play involved in this? How does the UAE, and there's Qatar, and so you had all these different pieces. And I would sit in these rooms and I would just try to read signals, and then I would go back to the United States and I would listen to the news to get those signals. And typically that was how I would come to a conclusion on what the best path forward was, because I could then say, all right, if a signal's here and a signal's here, that means that these people, called triggers and identifiers, they have different things that they need. And so let's try to fit them together so that we don't have conflict. And war happens when people have the same outcome, but they're diabolically opposed. That's when you get into war. So I didn't mean to teach the teacher or walk through that, but it's really important that as we start looking at signals now, the signals are pretty obvious. It's obvious. Our government, inside the government, you heard the general. The general said, there is no left, there is no right. There is the American people on one side, and this agenda that President Trump has very clearly laid out, and then there is the evil that has already been captured. The people that think that, hey, listen, I can make these decisions and I can affect it, and when the world goes to hell in a handbasket, I'll be protected because I'm a part of that establishment. Well, that's not true. That's not true. There is no protection for them. And they're part of what I call the really bad people group. So when General Holt said it, and even when Colonel Townsend said it, when they're talking about these things, they are literally sending us signals that, hey, look, I spent 20 years, I spent 30 years. Here's what I did on the outside. I can see it. They're clearly talking about what they know is going to happen next, because they can see the chess pieces, and that's where we're at right now. Now let's talk about Towner. Sorry, Colonel Towner. I should have gotten that right. This post that I'm going to put this up, that I put up earlier with them. Let's put it up again real quick. I put up this post on Saturday at 10 o'clock. People grabbed onto it and said, all right, let's go. And everybody's like, I can't believe you put it in cap locks. The op against me it happened quickly. Now you had the people that don't believe it, and frankly, don't believe it. I mean, this is the same. I said the same source that told me this. And, I have a stake in this. I mean, I have a vested interest in this being true. just so you know. Seeing the get rid of the machines and the mail-in ballots, it's the final piece of, I've stayed focused on this for 5 years. I know how to solve a problem. If you put a problem in front of me, I will solve that son of a bitch. I promise you, right? And so I have a vested interest in this. But as soon as I put this up, there's a guy that came after me, and I just had enough. I had enough. So this is what this guy said. You're claiming national security material concerning future classified military operations is being leaked to you by someone who can't keep their mouth shut. You claim you're in contact with someone on the inside who is deliberately compromising inside information so you can what? So you can blast it out there into the interwebs? If real, how it is not a national security breach. And if you call yourself a patriot, maybe stop leaking shit to the world about U.S. military planning, assuming your cool insider blabbermouth actually exists. If you're faking it, if you don't really have an anonymous source leaking classified national security information to you about future military operations, you're a clout-chasing faker. Which is it? Either way, shame on you for doing this. All right. So then he goes through and writes a bunch of other stuff, which we can say, about how I should be shot, right? And he tags Secretary of War. I don't know where the poke the bear or stir the bee's nest was going. I don't know who wanted it. I don't have that answer. I don't know who, and I didn't care. I asked a simple question. Now let me go back to what I said. I said that the same person that told me we were going to war which, by the way, this is not new news. Elon Musk said the same thing either that day or a day later. Matter of fact, I think I quoted Elon Musk when I talked about it. But I said that in the next 2 weeks, we'll bring indictments and arrests by former Dominion voting systems employees and state and federal sitting and former representative leadership across the nation. What part of that is a military operation? What part of that's a military operation? I'll wait. What part of that would... I think that I know why they wanted to poke the bear. And that's fine, I poked the bear. I did exactly what I was asked to do. I poked the bear. Now, who wanted the bear poke? None of your effing business. But the fact that Brian Cates came out this strong, and then I went back and watched Brian Cates. I went and looked at all this stuff. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Bro, you are like King Q. This is the original Q guy, just so you know. This is the guy that told us that there is an underground arsenal. President Trump is still the president. And I'm thinking to myself, and you're going to talk to me about breaking national security deal when you make up this tinfoil hat stuff? That you're bound to be right about some of it. And there's a little bit of truth in everything they say. But instead, you come out and say that I'm a cloud chaser. Look, there's nothing I would want more than for and by the people to continue to go back to where it is, where people actually have a voice. And I can go back to just doing tech and having a good time. And I might have to step out of the podcast at that point. Who knows, right? But you think this is cloud chasing? I was chasing clout. I gave up clout in order to step into a realm of protecting my brothers and sisters, because I am my brother's keeper, standing up for people in my community, because that's what I had done for 15 years prior to that. So I reject you, Brian Cates. I think you're a douchebag. A douche canoe, actually. Chris, I have to give you credit. I called him a douche canoe. Chris is like, I've been saying that for a long time. Anyway, Brian Cates, the douche canoe, said that I'm giving up secrets. All right. So with that said, I want to remind you of something really quick. When you get on the internet and you argue with someone, I want you to remember this. There are people like this that look like this guy, act like this guy, hide behind accounts called Demcast, but they're on both sides. And take a look at this.
One of the best ways to drain people's energy nowadays is via the internet. This woman is an astrophysicist. Actually, this is not how space works. Read a book. Now I just wait for the comments to come in. Hey, can you mansplain any louder? Yeah, sure. These are all different accounts that I have set up. The energy you get this way isn't quite as pure, but if you do enough of it, it'll fill you up. Shanghai sucked. Where was the Chinatown? Jason Mraz is just too weird for me. Jesus actually hates horses. Childhood obesity, LMFO. When they call you a dumbass, you know you've got them. They called me a dumbass. Women are getting too tall. Yeah. You can drain their energy via social media without having to even be near them. That is racist. You're correct. It is. Oh, yeah. 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 Oh, they hate me.
It's surprisingly simple to get total strangers completely furious with you.
They should get a life.
I have new meaning. I got past the part where you actually care what people think now, and I just care about my people, and I'm going to stay focused on that. But I thought you'd want to see that. But getting back to draining of energy and the people, what the radical left does is they lie with such a straight face, but they don't really say anything. And in this, we got to talk about what happened this weekend. First, let's put up this post about Cody Davis. So here's Mark Cook's post. I want to know when Cody Davis of Mesa County Commissioners is going to stand up and share what he told me his thoughts were on Tina's sentencing as well, directly when he's presented with the evidence in Mesa County Reports 1, 2, and 3 in his office, including the backdoors and the voting systems that allowed bad actors to manipulate the results without the citizens finding out. Now, here's what I think Cody doesn't know, is that I'm pretty sure that they recorded that because you don't have to, it's a one-party state in Colorado. And so Cody's about to get caught in a little bit of a lie here in a lot of ways. Cody, please take the floor and share with everyone what you told me in your office. You have an opportunity to right some of the wrongs that otherwise could be a problem for you later. This is a good opportunity for you here. I do hope you'll do the right thing. It doesn't look like he is active on X, so if the citizens of Mesa County should make sure he gets an offer, I would be most appreciative. Here's the problem. He's the one that went to Victor Marks and tried to convince her, not him, not to pardon Tina. And by the way, Victor Marks changed his entire platform as a result of this. There's more on Victor Marks we're going to have to uncover here in a bit, but I don't want to get in the mud. But I will tell you that there's been some stuff that's come out in the last couple of days that's going to be problematic for him. But he's also squishy. He says, I'm not a politician, but he is. He talks about God as if he holds God to a high regard. And he's institutionally dishonest, especially when it comes to Tina Peters. And he stepped on President Trump. He stepped on him. He basically said, I don't care what President Trump says, I'm just going to commute her sentence if I become governor. But Senator Bennett posted about Tina. And I want to put this up because, again, it's designed to lie and to get people to believe that lie. So let's go put up his post. Tina Peters was convicted of a jury of her peers for election tampering. We cannot bend to Donald Trump's lawlessness and corruption. Okay. Let me explain something to you because Mark responded to that. And this is what Mark had to say. You're a crooked piece of crap liar. She never tampered with an election. The election was over. And the tampering happened inside the system. Tina Peters exposed the tampering. There's no way you were this stupid. So in fact, you were lying to the citizens of Colorado. Do you think that you're going to get away with it? Do you think you won't be forced to answer your actions? Buckle up, demon. You mess with the wrong people. So let me explain to you, back to my post that I put on Saturday, that something is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. I truly believe that. And, you know, I hope it's within the 2 weeks. I hope it's within 2 days. But I think that the left is got to be panic over what's happening. And if they don't, then the deep state's already won, and that means they hold all the cards in the administration. So I put up this post, and this is a post that I put up about where are we headed towards. Let's go ahead and put that up. What are we headed towards? What is the difference between the states being captured by one by a fraternity of traitors, state by state today, and what we experienced 160 years ago with the traitors that we had to put down in the Civil War? It is the same. This is an insurrection. When fraudulent elections lead to density of radical communists in every level of government, we are in fact in the middle of an insurrection. It is time to take back what was never theirs to take. It is time to break the back of the devil itself, arrest no machines, no mail-in ballots, and stop sniffing the ass of what we know is the problem. It is time. Man, I believe it's time. We have got to stand up. We have got to get rid of the machines and mail-in ballots and hold these people accountable. President Trump is 1-0. But I will point out what I said before, and that is I think we're in a place right now where it's temporary. Everything that President Trump is doing right now is not supported by this singular aisle that exists in Congress. And President Trump took a couple shots at people that then stepped away. Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? We see what's happening with some other people, and I have to tell you this, Mr. Trump, or excuse me, to President Trump, I apologize. I did not say Mr. Trump. To President Trump, that maybe people that are inside your circle don't want you to like certain people because they truly are the alliance and the people doing the good work for you. I do know that this is the case with me. I have been attacked by people that said that I am not America first or I'm not MAGA. No. I'm a guy that would support and take a bullet for President Trump. That's what I would. But I'd also take a bullet for any American that was out there that somebody tried to do harm for, or to. So I want to talk about President Trump really quick, because I talked about that post and I said, here's my problem. And we have to be honest about it. We have people that are putting posts out. Let's go back to that post. Before we do this, let's go back to that post, because the left just went unglued, and that's the Ray Richards post. So let me read the post to you with the picture. Put the picture up first of the military man. You see that picture? That's an AI picture. That's not a real picture. That's AI. Now let me read to you what was underneath it. And this is the propaganda. This was actually created by Antifa. It was put on Antifa sites first. And then from there, they built this environment called Antifa Left, Right, Independent. So now they're trying to do is create an environment where Antifa is left, right, and center. It's not. It's got 472,000 people that are following it. And what people are doing is that they're grabbing that and they're putting it out there. This one was put out on January 8th by Ray Richards. I need to say something that has been bothering me for a while. And I'm saying it as a Marine Corps veteran who leans center right. See what they're doing? They're saying that I'm center right. So I'm just like you. Okay? This isn't partisan. This is observation. We've slow faded into accepting militarized police as normal, and nobody seems to notice or care. Even as a Marine Corps pilot, I went through 6 months of infantry training as an officer before flight school. I've worn the gear, the helmet, the tactical vest, the whole kit. And I can tell you from experience, it changes you. There's a psychological shift that happens when you strap that stuff on. You feel different, you carry yourself different. You start seeing the environment differently. In the Marine Corps, that shift was appropriate because it's a combat culture and organization. But these are American streets, American citizens, and we've got law enforcement dressed like they're kicking down doors in Fallujah to serve warrants in suburbia. What happened at high standards and real police tactics? I think Adam 12, officers Reed and Malloy, crisp uniforms, a revolver, a baton, high standards and professionalism. They look like public servants because they were public servants. They de-escalated. They talked to people. They were part of the community. Now, tactical gear, beards, ball caps, Oakley sunglasses, sleeve tattoos, and a tactical kit that would make special operators jealous, and we've turned it into a fetish. We celebrate it. We assume that because someone looks hard, they must be a professional. They're not. I love the Marine Corps, but to be honest, I was also blinded by it for a while. Mission first, unit over everything, and the mentality made sense in that context. But law enforcement doesn't get that critical examination. Back to Blue has become a shield against accountability. A blanket assumption that a badge plus gun equals hero. That tactical gear equals competence. It doesn't. Most people who join law enforcement aren't special operators. They're average people who desperately want to belong to something bigger than themselves. I understand that impulse deeply. It's why I joined the Marines. But wanting to belong doesn't make you qualified. Looking the part doesn't mean you can perform under pressure. And wrapping yourself in warrior aesthetics doesn't make you a warrior. Old school law enforcement represents something: standards, bearish, discipline, professionalism. Was it demonstrated, not costumed? A revolver and a baton meant you had to rely on your training, your words, your judgment, not overwhelming firepower. What I see now in law enforcement is the costume without the culture, the gear without the training, the authority without the accountability. Are there good people in law enforcement? Of course, I know some personally. But the reflexive law enforcement can do no wrong mentality is lazy, dangerous, and intellectually dishonest. A woman is dead, and before we sort ourselves into teams and start assigning blame, maybe we should ask harder questions. Why do we accept the militarized police force as normal? Why do we assume tactical gear equals tactical competence? Why have we let back to Blue become a substitute for actual standards? I wore the uniform, I went through the training. I know what the gear does to your head. It shouldn't be normalized in American streets against American citizens. And and we shouldn't pretend everyone wearing isn't qualified to carry it. The fact that he called her a effing bitch after he shot her 3 times should be a huge red flag for all of us. Okay, so let me put this in perspective for all of you, okay? Number one, I would not be surprised if what was written here was a lie. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Matter of fact, if you go to Ray Richards, if you go to his account and look it up, you can't see anything. He completely 1,000% made it so you can see nothing about his page. Go ahead and do it. Go do it. Go. There you go. There's his page. Go to the about part. There's nothing. You can see nothing. You can see 2 pictures. You can see 2 pictures, and when you go to those pictures, you can't click on them. He puts up a single post with a picture that gets 7,000 people to like it. A photo of someone that makes it look like that is what our law enforcement looks like that go out there for ICE. This is propaganda at its worst point. This is propaganda designed to do the same thing that George Floyd did in Minneapolis, that has led to all of these different protests where they want to at some point get the average everyday person to believe what they stand for is righteous and good. It is not righteous and good, and whoever wrote that was not a Marine. You don't turn into something different when you put on that uniform. You don't turn into something different when you put on that gear. You become convicted for why you signed up to become a Marine to begin with. But the entire post was written from a place of third person. They somehow, what being a Marine was about, being law enforcement, that these people are not qualified to do their job. That's not a Marine talking. And if you think that the guys that are in law enforcement aren't, a majority of them, previous military, they are. Which shows me that the person that wrote this post is absolutely 1,000% not qualified to write the post. And frankly, it's probably a CIA post. It's a CIA post that was written by Antifa and this organization, which I can't believe that I didn't have more of a pinpoint on this, PSL, which is this group of socialist liberation group. I don't think Renee Good being shot was a good thing. But here's also what I believe. I believe that if you go out to do harm to people that are out there trying to keep people safe and get rid of illegals that are on the street that are doing harm, that have committed crimes, then that could happen to you. You could get caught in an environment where you make a decision that you can't come back from, and it could cost you your life. But the other side is not true. This article that's now going around and being shared by all these radical leftists, that's being adopted by people that I know. Like I saw it on a guy's page that is a conservative. And I'm thinking to myself, you call yourself a conservative, you didn't even do any research. Because nobody does the research. You don't try to figure out where the genesis of this is. It's kind of like the Antifa manifesto. What is happening right now is identical to what happened in 2020. And you're being fooled by the idea that somewhere along the line, you should feel guilty about getting criminal elements out of our communities. And this same ethos of this is we really should just have camp counselors on the road. And we shouldn't have them actually out there protecting them. And in the same breath, by the way, let's get rid of police force. Let's get rid of your gun rights. Let's get rid of the ability for you to protect yourself. That's where this came from. But nobody did the research. They just said, I feel bad for these people. I feel bad that she got shot 3 times. And he called her an effing bitch. She was an effing bitch. She tried to run him over. And let me explain to you what's going through my head when that guy came to my house. and I had an AR-15 and a pistol on me, and I'm trained on him. One, he was there to test me at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning. And at 4:01, I was outside, and I had a gun on his noggin. And it's by the grace of God that I didn't pull the trigger and light that guy up, because he came to my house to do harm. Was I to feel bad about that? You know, killing a man will actually, it'll change you forever. But the other side is also true. And that is, someone should go home and be able to meet their family. And if you're out there as a citizen, standing against other citizens while watching and defending criminals and getting paid for it, she was a paid agitator. Oh, and she has 3 kids, of which 2 she lost custody of. But nobody talks about that either. And they're like, oh, well, Grok says it's not true. It is absolutely true. Okay, now let's get to this part. If somewhere along the line you were out there and you thought that, oh, you're right, we shouldn't militarize. No, we should not militarize the police. We shouldn't. ICE is not militarizing the police. ICE is there to get rid of people that shouldn't be in our country and stop. And to stop the victimization of our communities. Now, let me just tell you what the outcome is for not getting them out of our community. Go ahead and put up C1. This is Deborah Thompson. She was sexually assaulted by an illegal alien. He brutalized her in ways that would make a Hollywood horror film seem like Sesame Street. Well, Dakara clung to life. He took her battered body and threw it off a bridge. BLM never protested her. Race hustlers like Benjamin Crump, Al Sharpton, and Dominique Alexander remained stone cold silent. Jimmy Kimmel said nothing. Liberal influencers don't even know who she is. Not one liberal or Democrat chanted, say her name. Not a single one. The mainstream media buried her story extremely fast, like they wanted it gone before the sun even came up. Dakara Thompson was a mother, too. Her killer's action made her 2-year-old son an orphan, yet not a single Democrat posted about her. How many times? How about the 11-year-old in Colorado Springs that was raped by an illegal? Should we talk about the DUIs of the illegal? And oh, it was just a DUI. Well, how about the DUI that saw an illegal get 2 years in jail and he ended the life of 3 American citizens? Like, if you want to talk about not being a victimless crime, I have no interest in standing up for illegals. I want to start by saying you're here illegally. Now, whether or not we allow you to stay or we push you out and tell you to go is indicative of one thing and one thing only: have you broken the law? And if you broke the law, get out. If you haven't broken the law, if your parents were here illegally and you came in and you got an education, do I think there should be a separate path? Yes. But we're going to get rid of the propaganda in the school and start getting back to a place where we have a basis for truth. Because, frankly, we deserve it as Americans. We have been the daddy for people all over the world. Here's a protester, by the way. If you want to talk about the lunacy of what we're dealing with, this is a protester that's talking about Trump and his supporters. This is the radical left that gets supported by a post that says, oh, have compassion, and we got to get rid of these people because they're not even qualified to carry a gun. It's designed as an op, and you need to know it's an op, and you need to go tell people that it's an op because you know it's an op. But here's the protester talking about Trump.
Make sure you're not blocking any kind of traffic. You're going to see those Trump trucks coming around with their Trump flags. They're not waving American flags. They're waving those Trump flags because we know who they love. Do not get into arguments with counter-protesters. It doesn't work. If they're still on the Trump train, they are far too gone. You are not changing anyone's minds today. Turn around and just let them tire themselves out, because that's what happens. They eventually just go home. Let them honk, let them scream, let them do everything, because they've already made up their minds. They made up their minds to love and honor a pedophile.
That's right.
A rapist.
That's right.
An abuser.
Whoa.
A liar. A con artist.
Whoa.
A cheater. A racist. a fascist, a dictator, a felon, a globalist, an imperialist, a white supremacist.
Okay, first of all, they're all white people there. They're all white liberals. And the problem with those people is that they actually don't believe what they're saying. They don't care about black people. I asked my friend before I came on the show. He came in to meet with me about something else having to do with business. And I was like, hey, so you think white liberals, you think they care about black people? He goes, no, he's black. I said, well, why not? We went through this whole thing. He goes, nobody cares about black people. He goes, and we talked about the difference between real racists, the one that are racist, and white liberals who basically betray them and treat them like pawns while destroying them. Who's worse? I said, at least you can hear the racists. They can tell you who they are. You see them coming. People over here are hiding, doing everything they can to pull you in the depths of hell. And this is, I want to play this. This is an interview conducted on the street about banning immigrants from Somalia. You'll probably guess what the political party is. Let's play it.
Trump is banning immigration from Somalia. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's terrible.
Why?
I just think that there's a lot of bad things going on in Somalia, and we should be taking people in war-torn countries in.
We should be taking them in. Well, we're trying to get people today to sign up to take in a Somali migrant. Would you be able to do that?
I don't know. I'm not sure if I could or not. I don't live in New York.
Well, that's okay. Where do you live?
Massachusetts.
We could send them to Massachusetts if that's all right. Could we get your name, email address, and then how many you'd be able to take in?
I couldn't do that without talking to my husband first. I might be open to it.
You might be open to it?
But I would want to have more information first.
Okay. Could we just get your information just in case
Only because I don't know who you are.
Oh, I'm Matt Miller.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I do it through an organization.
Okay. President Trump says he's stopping immigration from Somalia. What are your thoughts about that?
We need immigration as a country. It's insane, the arbitrary stops that he's putting in on all these countries.
You think America should accept in third world immigrants? He shouldn't stop it?
We always have. We should.
We should. Let me ask you, we're trying to find people to take in a migrant from Somalia. Would you be able to give us just your email and how many you would like to take?
I wouldn't be available to do that at this time.
You wouldn't be available?
No. I live in Michigan. I can't do that right now.
Okay. I mean, we could send them to Michigan if that's all right. We're just trying to get... You don't want to do it?
Not at this time.
Okay.
You know, you say that war-torn country, you would be hard-pressed for people to understand where Somalia is. So just by without going to Google, don't go to Google, by a show of hands in the comments, how many of you know where Somalia is? How many? How many of you know where Somalia is? I'll wait for a couple comments. Do you really know where Somalia is? So anybody? Just say no. Just put in no, yes, no, yes, yes, no. Like I know where it is, I don't know where it is. This is one of those experiments. How many of you truly know where Somalia is? It's okay to say you don't know. I know roughly where. So Chris, where's roughly? Tell me roughly where. Patrick, did you know? Yeah, not me. Don't give a fuck. Okay, Pop. So I have been on this hunt of asking people when I get in the comments. I go, "Do you know where Somalia is?" And I want to catch them on the go. Yes, I know. So we got one that does. Yes, you do know. No, you don't know. Yes. Okay, now, where is it? If you were to describe it with one word, just tell me where it is. Where is it? Okay, I think Northeast Africa. So you'd be right. Modtred said no. But where would it be? Okay, come on. Just a couple more comments. It's really, I'll be able to tell right off the bat whether or not you cheated, too. Where is Somalia? Okay, it's in Africa. Yes. No way it's in Africa. I thought, you know what? I thought it was in Britain with how many people were up there. East Africa. Okay, we got closer. East Africa. These comments are great, right? Not sure, so Bob Dole, Bob MF and Dole. Bob Dole, somewhere in Africa. Okay, so we know that somewhere in Africa, right? Okay, so there's one word that's always used. You've heard me say it before. It's called the Horn of Africa. It is on the northeast side of Africa. It sits above Kenya. Okay, and then, so most people don't know where it is. You have no idea. And you could say, well, how at war are they in Somalia? And they're like, oh yeah, it's terrible. And I just shake my head. I have people out there. I was talking to somebody who said, you know, we can't hold it always against these Somalis and everything else. And I was like, oh yeah? All right, well, where's Somalia? Where, if you were looking at it on a map, where would it be? I didn't have one person tell me where it was. And I said, use the words to describe Somalia. Not one person said the Horn of Africa. Not one person on here said the Horn of Africa. How do I know the Horn of Africa? Because you have to go around it. That's why you had all these ships that would get caught off the Horn of Africa, and then they would have the pirate issue. It was like the perfect storm. Like, most people don't understand this. But we're over here virtue signaling like these guys just did on TV or on the show. They do not have the ability to understand even what they're arguing against. It's virtue signaling. And at the car can just get killed, no problem. Let's rape little children. Let's say that we're for something while something not, like doing something completely antithetical to being a good person. You know, it reminds me of the guy that runs out and says, I'm gonna go take care of all these people and I'm gonna just stop people from sex trafficking. And then they don't even have the ability to take care of their own children. So their kids grow up without a father. But that person goes out and says, I'm gonna go save people in another country. I'm gonna be the hero, while they neglect their own children. That's the problem that I have with politicians and shitty people who try to look like they're something they're not. I'd say the fruit of my tree is really, really good. My children have had exceptional lives growing up. It doesn't mean I was always there because I was overseas, but I was always there. I was always present. And when it came down to it, when my kids needed me, when I saw that something was happening and it wasn't stable for them, I quit. I was really good at what I did overseas. I sat at Doha, Qatar. You could talk to my daughter about it. She was doing horribly. She did not want her dad gone. So I quit. I came home and I cut grass. I cut grass at our family event center. Yeah, I cut grass. I went from being the guy that everybody, wanted advice from and had me build stuff and getting seats at the tables with kings and presidents and prime ministers and just being a fly on the wall, just writing stuff out. People that were like, Joe, hey, let's get Joe to do this. Being the guy to just cutting grass because I needed to be there for my kids. But that's not what these liberals are. They don't want to sacrifice anything. They want to look good to avoid looking bad. And here's a witness. I want to show you this visit in Boulder, Colorado. This is crazy. Let's go ahead and play this cut for.
All right, so I am out here in Boulder, Colorado. Haven't been in Boulder in a very long time, for many reasons, but I am here in Boulder, Colorado today, and I'm just like checking it out, looking at all the stuff, but I had to come over here to look at some of the stuff that's on this flyer board and some of the things that are being displayed here in Boulder. But let's check it out. Let's check it out together. We've got this amazing laundry list of propaganda here from the Young Democrat Socialists and training seminars and sessions on how to be a good little commie. The Boulder DSA, Socialist Sunday School, Democrat Socialism 101 here in Boulder, okay? So when I say I haven't been to Boulder in a long time, this is a reason why, folks. Check it out.
So this is another one. And by the way, this is why I know that the state of Colorado is completely red, minus what they're trying to create in Boulder, because even people in Boulder, they don't speak up because they're afraid of how they're going to get bullied by these people that put up those signs. I would rip all that shit down, by the way. Like if I was in Boulder, I'd just walk over and start ripping it all down. And watch, nobody will say anything to you because they're sick of it too. They feel like they've been held hostage by these radical demons. They're demons. But here's somebody that moved to Colorado. Here you go.
Something I think that's really interesting and weird since I've moved to Colorado is how much the locals don't want us here as transplants. Like, it's been really hard for me to meet people because everyone is so guarded and unwelcoming. It's been really shocking, honestly, coming from a city that's literally a melting pot of diversity. It's weird to me. I'm probably gonna get crucified or assaulted for making this video, but it's just been something that has stood out to me.
It's true. People in Colorado don't like transplants. You wanna know why? Because you bring your radical shit here, which is what happened in Boulder, what's happened in Denver. But then you still don't represent the majority. And so you do things, you say you're gonna get crucified for putting that up there. People don't like liberals. Even guys don't wanna date a liberal chick. That's why liberal chicks date themselves. So sorry. I'm sorry I had to be the one to tell you, but the reason why you're a lesbian is because men will not date you, because you're awful. And obviously I'm talking about the radicals. I'm not talking about just a regular, normal, blue blood liberal, although you probably have some problems too if you voted for Kamala Harris. All right, so here's, and I think regular Americans are just fed up with what ICE has had to deal with. I'm not gonna tell you right now, I am not gonna stand against ICE, I won't. They get, the Cara, the one that had to lose her life, and her son is an orphan. Yeah, you go tell her family, you go tell him that you want to give illegals more rights. You want to give Somalis millions of dollars. You can't, the average black, white American can't go get health care. It's $2,000 a month per child. But Somalis get it for free. Illegals get it for free. Here, we're gonna give you millions of dollars so your kids can have full daycare. And then they don't give it to them. They don't give it to them because they don't work anyway. So they just stay home with their kids. And then they take them to the area mosque or put them in the school and do this thing while stealing millions of dollars. It's become a grift against the American people. We're basically slaves to IQ 60 that they did it on purpose. Let's take as much as we can. And let's destroy the American people, the American dream. 56 cents on every dollar, let's give to the illegals. And if you're a black family, if you're a single mom, you have no chance. Zero chance. Here, let's play this. This is a video of anti-ICE folks using frozen water bottles. Let's see. Check it out.
Get out of the way! Get out of the way!
Throwing frozen water bottles. Yeah. They put Vaseline on the windshields. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's crazy what they're doing. So I want to end today with some laughs, okay? And then I'll pray us out. I got some prayers to give. Gammy is really sick right now, so I want to pray for her. And I want to pray for Dave, and I want to pray for my friend Jeff. And if you have some other prayer requests, I know that I had some that I'd say I'd do. Put it in the comments, please, and I'll pray for those as well. For those of you that are in my generation, you understand what dodgeball is. Let's play it.
The reason why this generation is so soft is because they haven't heard this.
Tell me why my ass just flinched. I still got marks on my face from that rubber ball. This generation out here playing dodgeball with squishmallows. Meanwhile, we was taking 90-mile-an-hour heaters to the face with that something. I can still smell it. What the?
I'll have to tell you that I was one of the guys throwing 90-mile-an-hour heaters. I would take my daughter and my son. Matter of fact, I wish my daughter was here. She will attest to this. We would go to the place where you have the bouncy house deal. What's it called? The trampoline park. And they had dodgeball things at the trampoline park. Well, they've replaced those too. But they used to have these smaller balls, and I could still throw them at like Mach 8. And you'd see kids trying to jump over the ball, and I'd hit the bottom of their foot, and they'd be like, wham! my son would be like, Dad, you are vicious. I'm like, hey, you stepped onto this plate. You gotta take it like a man. No, really. I used to have fun with Matt's soccer team. We'd go play dodgeball. But that's a real deal. When I was younger, we had those balls, and they were amazing. And then I just wanted you to be able to see that Maduro's okay, and that we had some behind-the-scene footage of Maduro that they released. And just for Brian Cate's sake, you know, this is totally putting out national security secrets. I know somebody's going to come knocking on my door for putting this video up, but I had to share it. I felt like it was obligated, that the American people needed to know that we had behind-the-scene footage. Play it.
Hop in there with Joe, I got places to go. But the same time is precious, I look at my Cartier out of control. Just like my mind where I'm going, the women, the shorties know nothing but clothes. No stopping at my Pirelli's on. Unlike my jewelry, that's always on. I know the storm is coming, my pockets keep telling me it's gonna shower. Call up my homies, it's on and popping the night, cause it's meant to be ours. We keep a fade away.
Yeah, so just a little bit of, you know, the Hello Kitty's a little over the top, but, you know, he didn't have time to grab his stuff. But, yeah, it's, all right. In other news, the Buffalo Bills are going to be playing the Denver Broncos. You guys are like, I don't care about football. All right, well, I kind of care a little bit about it because my Steelers are in it to win it. They're playing tonight. It's going to be an amazing game. We have some prayers. My wife is from Buffalo. Go Bills. All right, there you go. I'll let you have that. Who shares a border? Somebody tell me what they share. What are you talking about sharing a border? Yeah. Let's see what else. We're going to be praying for a few people. Prayers for Gammy. The Bears pulled out a miracle. Yes, the Bears. And so just so you guys know, I was hanging out with my friend in Texas, and he came over. I haven't spent a lot of time with him here recently, but you're gonna hear his name a little bit more here in the future, hopefully. But he's like, if they don't score on this drive, 100%, it's over. And so we did this the entire game while the Bears were down quite a few points, and then they came back and won. So it was pretty awesome. For the Bears. Texans will shut down Rodgers. I can't hear you. Gambling man, I can't hear you. Matter of fact, I don't think you're right. And then Susan, you're a Bills fan? I thought you were a Steelers fan. Do I have anybody that's a Steelers fan in the mix here? Any at all? Any? None? I'm going home, put on all my Steelers garb, and I'm going to go watch the game tonight. So I don't care what you say about the NFL. I don't care. The Steelers have never been woke, ever. So let's pray. Let's pray out the stuff. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. Just so you guys know, I am now on this like transformation deal where I'm working out every day really hard to get back to fighting condition. So we'll see how that works out. But Texas D is too good. Oh, Gambleman, what? You're a Steelers fan that's calling it against the Steelers? Say it's not true. Say it's not true. You and I need to have a talk. It's a problem. I'm going to just know. Steelers are going to win. All right. Let's pray it out, shall we? And remember, as always, you live in Buffalo? All right, well, you can be a Buffalo fan. They're going to be here in Denver, though. So maybe you have to come out here for the game. Watch them get beat. A grandson likes the Steelers. Good kid. Good old Davey. Thank you. What did you say? No. What? Allie, you're a Steelers fan. I made Allie a Steelers fan. She just doesn't know it. All right. Let's pray it out. As always, though, you are the ambassadors of truth. It was a great interview today. Go ahead and share it. Make sure that you follow us, give us a 5-star review, do all that fun stuff for us. And if you're on Rumble, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. If you're on YouTube, we're going to start doing more on YouTube. Kind of grow that environment as well. So let's pray. Father God, thank you. Thank you for the military leaders that were on today with us. Thank you for their wisdom. And thank you for their care and support and for their ability to still want to serve even after retiring from active duty. Father, we're grateful for the people that are leaders in our nation, both that are serving in the administration, the president, the ICE agents, the people that are really trying to make our country safer and to undo all of this radical things that have been happening in our community and our country for so long. We realize that we have an enemy within our ranks. And we do also realize that we are facing an insurrection it's a real thing. Father, we do know that everything happens in your time. We do know that your will be done. So, Father, we do ask you give us the strength to step in the gap. You give us the ability to be gracious and humble, while serving each other and binding ourselves together so that we can fight against this evil that we face. We do know that the ultimate goal is restoration, to restore you to every part of our life, and to make sure we live by the good principles of the great book. Father, we ask you to bless those that are sick right now. Gammy's sick, and we just ask you to heal her. We ask you to look out and look over her and to give her comfort and peace and to make it so she can get right back into this fight. We also ask you, Father, to help my friend Dave, who obviously is battling cancer. And let me kind of look for real quick, Father, on who else is in a bad place, if anybody put it in there. We know that there's just a lot of opportunity for people to be in a position where they are sick, where they do face challenges like cancer and other debilitating diseases and or ailments. But Father, I just ask you to give people the ability to heal themselves, to change habits, to use the alternatives that we have out there to heal some of these sicknesses. More importantly, Father, I just ask you to give those that are sick comfort. My friend Jeff has just found out that he has no cancer in his body. So I'll say thank you, Father, for that. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a long road for Jeff. And I just ask you to look over Pam and Jeff as they travel back to Colorado, that they may do so safely and that they may have have the ability to kind of just relax and enjoy and celebrate this victory, your victory. Father, help us that we may support whatever it is that President Trump is doing, this 5D chess that we know is there. More importantly, Father, I just ask you to keep President Trump and his administration and the people that are working out there to restore good to our nation, that you keep them safe and that you allow them to bind themselves together and to see the evil coming before it comes and to be able to combat it. We ask for these things, Father, humbly, in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. You guys are sitting here talking. Enjoy your foosball. Thank you for everything, Joe. Thanks, Bob. It's good to see you guys. Remember, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. We're on a bunch of different channels, but go ahead and share with us. We're also doing really well on Facebook. I don't know what it is, but Facebook and Instagram. And I got banned on Instagram from sending comments because I got a nice comment sent over. And so I responded because they threatened me. So I obliged and sent something back, and Instagram banned me for 24 hours. So I'll just apologize to Instagram for biting into it. I let somebody live rent-free in my head for a minute, but that won't happen again. So God bless you all. See you soon. Have a great week, and we'll be right back at it tomorrow.
The forgotten and the free, exposing rigged machines, Coomers, lies, dominions deceit. Pays $1,000 each day, shielding truth from corrupt halls, but he won't back down, standing tall through it all. Martin, Tina Peters break the chains that bind her tight, hand count votes and one day bring the fraud to light. No more mailing scams, no machines to steal the night. Restore the people's voice, make Colorado right. Governor Oltmann, lead us bold and true. Badass for the have-nots, fighting through and through. Abolish property tax, cut the tolls away. Shrink the bloated state, let the people have their say. Enrollment, it's our rally call. Truth and freedom rising, watch the tyrants fall. Untamed Colorado, strong and proud. We'll be one man for the people, set our great state free. Help the single moms, bring back trade school strong. Opportunity for youth, where the brave belong. Audit every NGO, ban the wolves that roam. Reclaim our stolen land, bring the power home. Eric Coomer's fraud dominions, rig design, expose the stolen votes, cross the dangerous line. No more victimhood, no chains on you and me. He's running for governor for real liberty. Smash the fraud machine, pardon heroes jailed for the have-nots. Rising truth will never fail. One warrior defies the corrupt elite. Colorado reborn, strong on our feet. Governor Oltmann, lead us bold and true. Badass for the have-nots, fighting through and through. Abolish property tax, cut the tolls away. Shrink the bloated state, let the people have the say. Governor Oltmann, it's our rally call. Truth and freedom rising, watch the tyrants fall. Untamed Colorado, strong and proud. We'll be one man for the people, set our great state free. Governor Oltmann, lead us bold and true. Governor Oltmann, freedom forever, Colorado rise. rise up untamed. In the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam, Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Tame nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever